is it a must that you do with the ugali, or perhaps you can think about fish farming? So I want to cross over to Safin Chengoma so that you try and put this into context, is it not?
Yes, sure. So Kenyans are crying, and the high prices of food that are skyrocketing have affected every family. And recently we were having a conversation here and we said, why not look at the alternatives? So today we want to focus on what are the alternatives Kenyans can look at in terms of, avoiding the shortage. And
I'm always a pro-alternative, so take it away.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And of course, welcome back to the program. This is where now we get to the first part of the interview today and get to focus on fish farming as an alternative, and even as we are dealing with the skyrocketing food prices that have affected every family in Kenya, be it low class, middle class, or high class. Every family has been affected in one way or another. And to help me talk about this morning, I'm hosting two amazing guests from Victory Farms. Sitting from my far left is Olga Odera, the administrative manager. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, and sitting right next to me is Mr. Nanda Saba, and he's a colleague in the profession. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Yeah, so let's begin right away. If you look at the state of our country today in terms of food security, probably if I may begin with you, Olga, what would you say, how would you describe where we are at in terms of food security?
Currently, we don't have enough food, as I can say. As you can see, for example, the price of unga has really gone up, but with the price coming down, at least I can see some changes now, starting from today. But what is good with the fish farming, you can't find any shortage with the fish. It's there, day in, day out, especially at Victory Farms. We have enough fish to cater for all season. Yeah.
But then again, even if we leave, before we even get to the conversation about fish, when you talked about food security, you talked about maize. Are we looking only at maize when we talk about food in our country, Nanda?
Actually, what we should be looking at is not just food, but actually diet. We should be talking about diet, what to consume in terms of balanced carbohydrates, proteins. So when you have that in mind, it doesn't. You'll be wise in what you choose to put on your plate. Every day when you go to buy, even if the unga is skyrocketing, you can find other alternatives that at least by the end of the day you get to have a very good meal that actually builds your body. So in terms of food security, I can say what we can really try and address is trying to bring the right kind of nutrients in the plate. So it doesn't matter which food is expensive or which food is affordable, but if you have the right kind of food,
a balanced,
healthy diet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because even if ugali now is, the prices has gone down, you can eat ugali alone the whole week.
It's not healthy. It's a lot of carbohydrates. But then again, how did we, from where you sit, Olga, how did we get here? Because we didn't just wake up and we go to the shops and we find that many Kenyans cannot afford to buy basic foods. How did we get here? Probably from where you sit, what have you been able to assess as some of the factors that have led to these food shortages and high prices of food?
First is climatic changes. We had a period of drought which led to this, and improper planning. Yeah,
okay.
For the farmers.
And talking about drought, Nanda, it's not the first time that we are talking about drought. It is in Kenya where today we are crying of effects of drought. Tomorrow we are crying of effects of floods. Next year we are back to the same situation. The coming year we are back to the same situation. Would you say that we don't learn any lesson, we forget so easily, or what is happening to our population?
Yeah, I can say, just like my colleague has said, it's about planning. Because you will find not only Victory Farms, we are here trying to address about food security, but there are also many other people out there in their farms, they're trying to address that. But there is no mechanism in place to mobilize us and to be able to put the information out there, or just a system whereby other methods and other ways can be brought into into the people. Yeah, so people will be like waiting for, if the news says the food is expensive, everybody will be down and gloom, like, okay, there's no food. But there is.
Okay.
Because even us, we're really, like she said, our production about fish. You know, fish is white protein. And white protein is healthier than red protein. The information is out there, but the awareness is not out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to ask you, Olga, there are a lot of people who'd like to eat healthy, but due to the cost, you know, they cannot be able to do that. So most of you families opt to go for cheaper options that may not necessarily be healthy to them. How do you think, you know, as a country, we can get to a point where each and every family, regardless of whether they are low class, mid class, or high class, can be able to afford a balanced diet like Nanda is sharing with us this morning?
First, it's possible. What you can do, we can standardize the prices of our basic foods in Kenya. If that is done, then the food can be locally available to each and every Kenyan, be it the poor or the rich people. And secondly is making the food available to, especially, giving offers to the basic foods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So standardizing of basic foods.
Yeah.
This can be able to
Making
help even the
offers,
low-income earners to afford.
Just to give strength to a point. Currently, we are also working direct with market women in those low-income areas, like Kawangware, Kangemi, Kibera. We don't sell our fish direct to the market. What we do, we find the mama who is there frying the fish already. She's there selling it. She has been selling it all throughout the years. So we come with our fish and we try and support her. We give her at a very affordable rates so that she can reduce her price. You know, even we try to explain to them, you know, you can make money in pushing volumes. You don't have to sell your fish at 100 or 200 shillings so that you can make a big profit margin. But we make them understand, yeah, you can sell it, that 200 fish, you can sell it at 90 or even 80, and then you sell it more.
Okay.
Because our supply is consistent.
Okay.
And we do deliveries, we bring it to your doorstep.
Okay. But then again, you were sharing with me earlier that we as a country, we don't consume a lot of white protein.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's like that? Is it the cost probably, or lack of information of the benefits? What is it? Okay,
yeah, partly we can say lack of information, but also before the fishing, the industry has been with a lot of players, a lot of middlemen. Like from the fishermen, they'll come, the transporter is another key player, is another player. Then comes the women who go to Gikomba, they buy it, that's another player. So by the time it comes to your plate, everybody has put their profits.
Into
so that's why it's expensive.
But then, did you know that fish in Nairobi is cheaper than when you go to places like Kisumu and Homa Bay? We've never really understood what is happening. Probably you can be able to share with us why that is happening. It is cheaper in Nairobi as opposed to where you think the fish is available. What is happening down on the ground?
Well, I can say because in Nairobi we have a lot of fish importation in the market. Yes.
Which is another challenge.
We
are asking ourselves, why are we importing fish from China, for example? What happened to our country? Olga, what happened to us so that we are now importing basic food like fish from countries like China?
First, the fish we have in Kenya is not enough for Kenyans. But number two, we have we have the best lake to rear fish, which is Lake Victoria. Like the fish that we are rearing in Lake Victoria, we are rearing it 30 meters deep in cages, and it's enough. Every day we are stocking like 200,000 pieces of fingerlings in the cages, meaning that it's enough to sustain the market that we have so far. And currently the market is still high than what we can, the demand is so high than what we can supply, but we are trying our best. Per harvest, we normally do like 2 to 3 harvests in a week of around 3 metric tons. And 3 metric tons than what we can supply, but we are trying our best. Per harvest, we normally do like 2 to 3 harvests in a week of around 3 metric tons. And 3 metric tons, when it comes to an average of 300 grams, is around 7 to 8,000 pieces of fish. So we are trying to curb
the demand. That is in
yeah.
But then again, Nanda, what, do you think that you've talked about lack of information?
Yeah.
What do you think we ought to do to make sure that there is that awareness? Because more, like you're saying, there is that shortage. There is a lot of demand for fish, but it's not available.
Yeah.
So more, there's need for more people to get into fish farming.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure that this information gets to them, even as we seek to fill that gap?
Yeah, okay. Like us in Victory Farms, we believe in being the first people to, if there's a problem, being the first people to try and curb the problem. So what we're doing currently, even if you look at our Facebook page.
But then even if you live, I know there are things you're doing, but if you look at it in a general perspective, like there are so many people who may not have access to you guys, but then they're in different parts of this country and they may want to get involved in fish farming. How do they get to start? Probably what do they need to start this project?
Yeah, actually, everything is step by step. In terms of like what you're saying about knowledge. What we do ourselves, we have fish testing events whereby we go down to the ground and with our fish, it's fresh, it's tasty, and then we do some free samples, we grill it, and then allow people to come and test it so that at least they know the difference. And also working with the market women, they're now telling us that now people know the difference between our fish and imported fish. They can tell that, okay, even the taste is different, the flesh is different. So we're trying to get information out there that, yeah, fish from the lake is different already just by looking at it, by tasting it. It's already different.
Okay.
And then they continue, they pass on the message, the information by themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Olga, if we have such access to information, then we can be able to curb the shortage. More people will get into fish farming. But then, as a nation, do we understand the benefits of white protein as opposed to red protein? He touched on that a bit, and probably because you're in the industry, you can be able to, enlighten us this morning. The difference between the two, some of the health benefits that we need to look at in terms of when we are consuming white protein, how beneficial is it to our health?
White protein is very beneficial because it has most nutrients as compared to the red meat. The protein content in it is so high, and it doesn't have so much fibers as compared to the red meat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't pose any health risks.
Health risks,
good for your
heart
brain.
diseases.
Okay. And now, going forward to, even as right now, of course, there is some good news that, the prices of maize have gone down. You guys are sharing with me about fish. What would you be able to share with Kenyans in terms of other alternatives that are there so that we just don't live in a closed box and focus on one type of food? We are at a position where we can look at other alternatives in our country. So if you look at what you are producing in our agricultural sector, what are some of the things that you can be able to advise Kenyans to go for, as alternatives?
Yeah, I will stress my point on diet, on make sure, read a lot, make sure you know what good foods to consume. And we are a very strong campaigners for white protein as opposed to red protein. So you can find white protein anywhere, like not only fish, also chicken. Yes,
okay.
that's what I can say.
There are people who argue that, the skyrocketing prices are related to the political atmosphere currently. Olga, do you think it has anything to do with politics, or it's our fault for not being proactive enough?
I think it's our fault for not being proactive enough. Yeah, it has got nothing to do with politics. They didn't go to the ground and say that the maize do not need to grow. It's not anyone's fault. It's just us not being proactive. Yeah.
Okay.
And also, it's also in our habits, because even before Victory Farms, the fish that was being fried around the corner always. Even they're selling it at 100 shilling, they're selling it at 150 shilling, but we'll just ignore. We'll just ignore, and I'd rather go and buy alcohol, airtime. You know, I put my mind on other things apart from my health.
Okay.
So it's good to consider your health, to have that habit of having, because if you have good health habits, it doesn't matter which food is expensive or is cheap. You will be able to manage yourself, because you'll be consuming little of everything.
Okay.
Not just one thing, yeah.
All right. And that would curb the shortage. But also, you know, talking about habits, I feel like as a country, we are focusing too much on, you know, short-term solutions to some of these problems as opposed to long-term issues. So if you may share with me probably an advice to stakeholders going forward so that we don't find ourselves in the same situation like we are in right now, though there are so many efforts that are being done. But then again, what do we need to do as a long-term solution to this problem so that we don't suffer a food crisis, high prices of basic commodities, and issues to do with that, Olga?
First is having like 2 to 3 harvest seasons, and planting different types of foods, not only one type of food or 2 types of foods, and rotating them occasionally. And then storing enough foods in our granaries.
Okay.
So that we don't face, when there's a shortage, we have something to cover up for the shortage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that the government has invested in a satisfactory way in the agricultural sector?
You know, I wouldn't generalize it per se, because ever since the county governments came to play, each county government has their own priorities. Like where we are by there our farm is in Sindo, Homa Bay, and the government of Homa Bay has supported in a way, like issuing permits and everything. So about government, I can say now we restricted to different county governments have their own priorities. Yeah, I won't generalize it into.
Okay.
Yes.
If you may use, you know, that case study, look at the smallholder farmer in Kenya. What do you think are some of the efforts that they need to be, you know, the kind of support that they need so that they can be able to, you know, benefit from their harvest and be able to produce food that can feed the population in Kenya? What sort of support do they need?
They need trainings from the officials so that they know how to do the planting and taking care of the food products while in the shamba and outside there, so that they don't face any crisis in the farming sector.
Yeah, and also market protection. Like fish importation is really, the imported fish has really flooded the market, and their prices is very, now I can say, cheap. So more people are going for it because of higher profit margins. The same imported fish, like where it is grown, it's grown in fish ponds where there was factories. So there's a lot of contamination, especially mercury. And you know, if you eat mercury in your body, it doesn't live. It will always be there. So it's not safe. In fact, the same fish in Europe it is not accepted as it's been banned. But here
it's consumed.
It's consumed.
And there's lack of information on the hazards.
So what I can say is also market protection, like the government comes and protects the local farmer.
Okay.
So that no importation comes and affects and tries to compete or affect his business or his farming. So if we look into that, I think it will be a big milestone. A big milestone.
Yeah, and also, you know, probably maize just hit the headlines because many people consume maize. But even as we look at it, you know, there are other crops that were affected by the failure of rains, like rice. There's Irish potato. There are
Yes,
so many,
yes.
you know, other crops that were affected, and probably that is why we are where we are as a country. And we are doing a lot of imports. We are importing sugar. We are importing fish. We're importing maize.
Even this maize that we're being told is
Yeah.
it's been imported.
Yeah.
So
So what you're sharing with me is that, you know, there are other ways that we can you know, involve as a country, as a people, so that we don't find ourselves in this situation coming.
In that note, Victory Farms, we like saying, make local, eat local. Yeah, it's a slogan to actually, we as Kenyans, we should try and be proud of what we produce ourselves. Yeah, so because in terms of even when it comes to fashion. Okay, fashion industry, everything is being imported, but we can start, when it comes to food industry, we should take a stand and say, no, let's make local, let's eat local. Yeah, because we have the land, we have the resources.
The soil, we have everything.
You know?
Yeah. The challenge with local is that the cost. The cost is usually the issue. Many people would love to embrace local, but we don't understand why local is so expensive as compared to, you know, the ones that are imported in our country. That is something that also probably needs to be looked at. And there's one issue that I also want you to give me your thoughts on. The government feeds like 1 million people per year in semi-arid and arid areas in this country. And we are looking at a situation where if there was a way in which this could be curbed in terms of, you know, the cost to the taxpayer every year, because the government uses taxpayers' money to feed this population, what do you think is the best solution for these areas where there is little rain and a lot of the times they suffer from drought, so that we can be able to, you know, have a long-term solution to that?
We can be digging irrigations. We can do the irrigation schemes in those areas so that they don't lack the food. And us as Victory Farms, what we are doing, we are trying to make this fish locally available to each individual by having it in different sizes. We have the size 1 of fish, size 2, up till size 10.
Okay.
So you buy the fish according to your pocket.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. We wish we could continue this conversation, but there is more that we have lined up for you on this Wednesday edition of Good Morning Kenya. There's Be the Change, and Crosstalk will be coming right after that. So keep it right here. My name is Safin Aching.